The grandeur of Rome was not limited solely to its military conquests or monumental constructions. Behind the walls of the Colosseum, echoes of a society as fascinating as it was contradictory still resonate. On one side, the aristocracy with its pomp and privileges. On the other, the gladiators charged with entertaining crowds thirsty for violence and emotion. But there is an even more intriguing aspect in this setting. The plot of forbidden passions, secrets, and blood ties that united people from different social classes. In this story, we will see how real characters, Faustina the Younger, her husband, the philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius, and the controversial heir Commodus, coexisted and shaped the destiny of Rome. The arena was not only a place for battles, but also a stage for passionate encounters, scandals, and obsessions so deep that they challenged the logic or morals of the time. Talking about gladiators is not just about sweat and steel, but also about sweat and desire. Let's travel behind the scenes of this world, where the thin line between public adoration and social disdain appears in every gesture, and where high society women were willing to risk everything for a moment, alongside a muscular and fearless warrior. The boundaries between love and cruelty, between honor and shame, were more blurred than one could imagine. So, are you ready to learn surprising secrets, intrigues, and passions that ran wild in the heart of the Roman Empire? Enjoy every detail of this script and dive with us into the history of hidden desires, power, and tragedies that changed the course of many lives. But before we dive into this incredible story, have you made sure to subscribe to our channel? Don't forget to hit the bell icon as well, so you receive updates on this and other content full of curiosities about ancient Rome. And to begin, how about we take a look at the atmosphere surrounding each gladiatorial presentation? Who were these people who watched, cheered, and rooted for both blood and love at the same time? The spectacle before the sword. The Colosseum, with its majestic architecture, welcomed spectators from all corners of Rome, from proud senators in their fine togas to commoners curious for a moment of distraction. This audience sought more than just adrenaline. There was a morbid curiosity in watching men risk their lives, and at the same time, the thrill of witnessing a social spectacle where secret romances could begin with a simple glance from the stands. Before the fights, a grand parade of gladiators took place under the strong sun, while trumpets and drums announced their entrances. It was like a preview of what was to come. Men like Sergius walked with their heads held high, displaying their scars, their muscles, and the determination of someone who would face death head-on. For many in the crowd, desire mixed with fascination for brutality. However, behind the pomp and the shouting, exploitation existed. Many gladiators were slaves, condemned men, or indebted free men who sold their own strength. Despite their heroic reputation, they occupied one of the lowest rungs in Roman society. They entered the arena as if they were stars, but it was enough to cross the gates of the Colosseum for them to be considered mere entertainment tools. The noble women, wearing their veils and dazzling jewelry, stayed in the upper boxes. From there, they observed every movement of the gladiators, and some would even pay fortunes to hire these men's services outside the arena, either as personal bodyguards or as secret lovers. All of this built an even greater atmosphere of anticipation for the moment when swords would begin to clash. Now that we understand the atmosphere of the spectacle, let's delve into the harsh social reality of the gladiators, especially when they became objects of passion for influential members of society. Desired, but marginalized. Despite the prestige that the arena provided, the status of a gladiator in Rome was closer to that of a slave with special skills than that of a hero. The very notion of honor was compromised. For traditional Romans, Free men who became gladiators of their own volition were seen as individuals who had renounced citizenship and dignity, placing themselves in the same category as prostitutes and actors. This contradiction between the adored and the despised created an even greater fascination for the female elite, who saw in these warriors something forbidden and irresistible. The scars that marked their bodies, the firmness of their muscles, and even the scent of the sweat they exuded in the heat of combat were topics whispered about at luxurious dinner parties. However, being desired did not spare them from isolation. At public parties, some gladiators were invited to perform, but they were often dismissed before the event ended, so as not to contaminate the morality of the nobility. It was a matter of convenience. They served for entertainment and pleasure, but were rarely accepted as legitimate members of that society. The clash between moralism and carnal desires became evident when we read accounts of high-class women, like Faustina the Younger, who, despite living in palaces, risked their reputation and marriage to get involved with these men. The proximity to danger made everything even more exciting, and it was this very danger that sealed the tragic fate of many gladiators. Have you ever wondered why some free men chose the arena? Let's understand how the allure of fortune and fame could seduce even those who already had citizenship. The price of freedom. Imagine a free man, but buried in debt or wanting to escape a life without prospects. The arena emerged as a quick opportunity to earn money and perhaps achieve some kind of glory. At first, it was easy to be enchanted by the rewards. Abundant food, elite training, and the possibility of one day buying his own freedom. Even so, the contract was cruel. Many trainers offered an agreement in which the gladiator was responsible for victories and good performances. Otherwise, he would suffer physical sanctions and even death. It was a pact with fate. With each fight, freedom could be closer or could slip through his fingers, stained with blood. Success stories were few, but they existed. A victorious gladiator, well-connected, could eventually be bought by a wealthy patron and receive his manumission, freedom. However, if he chose that path, he would generally remain on the outskirts of society, as prejudices against ex-gladiators were intense. In short, for those who had nothing to lose, risking oneself in the arena could be a route of escape, but for each victory that generated applause, there was the shadow of the next fight. And the burden of fighting for survival, fame, and money day after day transformed courageous free men into true slaves of violence. If the arena was a stage for battles, it was also a space for a less obvious commerce. Now let's talk about one of the most curious facets of the Roman passion for gladiators, the sale of their bodily fluids. When desire turns into commerce, the fame of gladiators extended beyond the arena. In ancient Rome, it was believed that the sweat, blood, and even the grime that accumulated on their bodies possessed almost magical properties. Some called it superstition, others saw it as alternative medicine. In any case, bottles of gladiator essence were sold at high prices, purchased by those who believed in their supposed aphrodisiac powers. Noble women would even use this material as an exotic perfume or as an ingredient in love potions, in the hope of attracting a more virile husband or ensuring the fidelity of a lover. It was such a promising market that some gladiator trainers in secret encouraged their pupils to provide this type of product. The boldest accounts even claim that there were intimate ceremonies in which the blood of a gladiator freshly spilled in the arena was collected for fertility rituals. Although this may seem macabre now, to the mindset of the time it was an investment in luck and the perpetuation of good genes, as the bravery and strength of these warriors were highly admired. However, this commerce was not always consensual. Many gladiators, especially slaves, had no choice. They were forced to yield their sweat or blood for such purposes. While some were satisfied with the extra income, Most saw it as just another form of exploitation and humiliation in a society obsessed with power and pleasure. And it is in this climate of obsessions and fetishes that one of the most controversial stories of Rome emerges: the involvement of the Empress herself. Want to know how a secret passion shook the palace? Let's find out now. Faustina, the empowered Empress in love. Faustina the Younger has always been described by historians as a woman of strong character, who did not easily bow to the expectations of the Senate or the people. Although she was married to Marcus Aurelius, she harbored an uncontrollable curiosity about the world of gladiators. Accounts say that during a certain parade of fighters, she became enchanted by a particular warrior, even falling ill from such an obsession. This dangerous passion did not go unnoticed. It is said that the Empress confessed her fantasies to her husband, who, concerned with the public image of the couple, consulted oracles and diviners to obtain a mystical solution for the situation. The result? The controversial ceremony in which the gladiator was to be killed over Faustina in a macabre ritual supposedly meant to free her from that fixation. The impact of this rumor was immense. Some said it was proof that Faustina had no scruples. Others defended her, arguing that perhaps it was all part of a plan orchestrated by political rivals to tarnish her reputation. The fact is that, true or not, the case spread throughout Rome and raised questions about the power gladiators exerted over the nobility. And speaking of power, if you are enjoying this deep dive into the scandalous relationships of ancient Rome, hit that like button now. It helps us continue bringing such captivating stories. And don't forget to comment if you believe these rituals actually happened. Some say it's pure legend, but others insist Faustina's passion was intense and real. After this scandal involving the Empress, how did other Roman women handle their forbidden desires? Get ready to discover a more intimate side of aristocratic life. The lover with a sword. It wasn't only Faustina who felt attracted to the gladiators. Stories of rich and influential women hiring these warriors as bodyguards spread throughout the empire. The official excuse was that they needed protection during travels or events. But in practice, many of these arrangements turned into secret love affairs. Was it romance or merely transactions of pleasure? Each case was unique. Some noble women genuinely fell in love with the gladiators, seduced by the virility and courage of men who faced death head-on. Others saw them merely as objects to satisfy fantasies and to prove their own social power, as it was a way to own something that the rest of society admired from afar. The humiliation of these warriors came from the fact that, when they were not fighting in the arena, they had to also yield to desires outside of it. It was a game of seduction and submission, where money and status spoke louder. For some gladiators, it was an opportunity to rise in life, earning generous rewards for their services. For others, it was just another chain on their wrists. Still, there are accounts of couples who truly fell in love and tried to escape this oppressive system. Many of these stories ended in tragedy, as Roman society did not forgive marriages that crossed established caste lines. The lovers with a sword, therefore, embodied the dual role of idols and slaves, in a contradiction that reflected the very soul of Rome. If you think this fascination was limited only to male gladiators, wait until you discover how the women in the arena caused a frenzy among the spectators. Gladiatrices, the goddesses of the fight. The so-called gladiatrices existed in smaller numbers, but they made an extraordinary impact. When they appeared in the arena, it was as if all of Rome stopped. Seeing a woman wielding a sword or spear evoked contradictory feelings. On one hand, it was a unique spectacle. On the other, a shock to an extremely macho society. These female fighters received even less armor than their male counterparts. The reasons were both practical and aesthetic. The organizers wanted to highlight feminine features, making the show more eye-catching. Sometimes they fought with their torsos nearly exposed, showcasing the courage to face death with the same intensity as their male opponents. Their lives were no easier. They suffered prejudice, were seen as luxurious curiosities, and when they appeared at private parties of aristocrats, they served as entertainment and possibly as objects of desire. The difference is that for some, it was a form of freedom, a protest against the limitations imposed on their gender. However, the popularity of gladiatrices was so great that at one point, the Senate issued decrees banning this type of combat. There was fear that women, upon developing a taste for the fights, would abandon their domestic obligations and jeopardize the Roman family structure. Few persisted, but those who continued in the arena gained a legendary status in popular memory. And when the choice isn't exactly a choice, let's talk about the thin line between opportunities and coercion that governed these intense relationships. Sex for survival. Prostitution in ancient Rome was widely tolerated, though looked down upon. Gladiators, in a way, were also sold, but in another context. In some cases, heads of gladiator schools, known as ludi, made arrangements with wealthy figures who desired private entertainment. In exchange, the gladiator received some extra payment or privileges in training and sustenance. For many slaves, engaging sexually with matrons or influential masters was the only chance to gain minimal advantages, such as better medical care or even protection from certain physical punishments. As much as there could be some pleasure, in most cases there was veiled coercion, as refusing an advance from a powerful figure could mean more suffering. Amid this pressure, some saw the situation as an opportunity. Some gladiators became true sexual celebrities, coveted by the richest ladies of Rome, which ended up yielding favors and perhaps a chance at a less harsh life. Other stories, however, speak of gladiators who went mad under the weight of exploitation, preferring death in the arena to continuing in this cycle. Survival, therefore, involved not only winning battles, but also learning to handle the desires of those in power. It was a complex game where even emotions got entangled. There are cases of gladiators who truly grew fond of their mistresses, while others lived in terror of failing in any aspect, knowing that clemency was not always part of the Roman vocabulary. Want a clear example of how passions could break all barriers? Then get ready to hear the story of Eppia, who defied the morals and conventions of the empire. The woman who fled for love. Eppia was the wife of a Roman senator. She had every comfort one could desire: a spacious home, slaves to serve her, expensive jewelry and luxurious dresses. But none of that satisfied her yearning for adventure and true love. Then she met a gladiator named Sergius, famous for his courage in the arena, but also for his scars that attracted curious glances. Their conversations began discreetly, amid whispers in the corridors. However, the strength of their feelings grew quickly. Eppia felt that Sergius treated her as a real person, not just a shiny object on display. He saw in her a determined woman, unafraid of the marks on her body, and she, in turn, saw in him the perfect escape for a life without passion. The love affair turned into a scandal when Eppia abandoned her husband, children, and all social conventions to flee with Sergius toward Egypt. The rumor spread through the streets of Rome. How could such a wealthy and respected woman get involved with a gladiator, especially one with a scarred face? Juvenal, the satirical poet, openly mocked the case, calling Eppia the gladiator's wife. For many Romans, it was the ultimate proof that the fascination with gladiators was uncontrollable. The couple's fate remains shrouded in mystery. Some say they lived happily ever after in Egyptian lands. Others claim they were pursued and punished. In any case, Eppia's story became a symbol of female rebellion and the power of love amidst a society marked by hypocrisy. And now, we reach the climax of our narrative. After all, what lessons can we learn from this blend of violence, passion, and power in ancient Rome? Love and war in the sands. The Colosseum and the arenas scattered throughout the empire were much more than battlefields. They were places where destinies intersected, passions flared, and secret agreements were made. While the public clamored for a man's death, there were people in the crowd falling in love with him. In Rome, the extreme of brutality coexisted with the extreme of seduction. This striking contrast reflects a society obsessed with the image of strength and courage, yet lacking in genuine emotional authenticity. The sexual repression of the elite, combined with the desire to control everything and everyone, created an incendiary environment in which gladiators were both celebrities and servants. The glory of winning a fight could turn into sexual slavery just hours later. Commodus, for example, heir to Marcus Aurelius, embodied these ambiguities. Of an explosive temperament, he was so attracted to the life of a gladiator that he would forget his imperial duties. Many even feared that Rome's stability was at risk due to the whims of a ruler who preferred the arena over the throne. Meanwhile, Faustina, his mother, was pointed to as the source of that gladiator blood due to rumors that would never be proven. In the end, the Roman Empire moved on, but it left behind a legacy of intense contradictions. Just as it erected unmatched monuments and roads, it also buried lives and secrets in sands stained red, and it is in this fusion of blood, sweat, and desire that we find the true soul of Rome. Relentless, passionate, and eternally memorable. After exploring these 11 points, we can see that the obsession with power, sex, and glory lurked around every corner of the Roman Empire. While the gladiators shed their blood in the arena, the nobility allowed themselves to be seduced by forbidden adventures. Characters like Faustina, Commodus, Marcus Aurelius, Epia, and Sergius show us how the boundaries between love and duty could blur into dangerous obscurity. The history of ancient Rome is, above all, a portrait of intense contrasts. On one side, the intellectual and artistic advancements that created timeless works and philosophies. On the other, the carnal desires and thirst for brutality that fueled the masses. Today, the fascination remains. As we see in that era, a mixture of everything essentially human: courage, fear, lust, honor, betrayal, and redemption. Perhaps that is why studying the past is still so relevant today. The quest for power and the need for affection, the clash between morality and passion, all continue to occur in various forms. Ancient Rome, with its great arenas and charismatic characters, simply laid bare these dynamics in an epic manner. If you felt engaged by this narrative, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends so we can continue exploring fascinating stories like this. Thank you very much for accompanying our journey through time. We hope that this reflection on love and war in the Roman arenas will echo in your memory. Until next time,